Welcome to another episode of Just Saying With. Today, I'm just saying with Paul Gracey, who is the Vice President and Head of Print Category at HP. Hi, Paul. Good evening and welcome to Singapore.
Thanks, Ed. Great to be here, and welcome to the HP showroom.
Thank you. Look, it's a beautiful place. If you can see, I love this kind of setting. It almost feels like I'm in a bar, but I'm not. In fact, I'm surrounded by a lot of things that I am guessing, been printed by HP stuff. I don't know, but it looks really, really cool.
We hope so, yes. No, all of this was printed on HP. Yeah.
Fantastic. So before we go into HP itself, maybe a little bit about yourself, Paul. So tell us, what does the Vice President and Head of Print Category do at HP?
Well, it depends if you ask my staff or the other members of HP, but what I'm trying to do is really running what is the future of print for HP within Greater Asia, and that is around how we sell the product, how we market the product, what products we bring into Asia as a whole, and really try and set up a very customer-centric business for HP here in Asia.
I've mentioned this to you just before we spoke. It's something that I don't quite know how to put into words, but when we talk about the future of print, so I'm someone that loved and still loves to read. Mm-hmm. And I grew up so I used to read a lot of higher fantasy novels. It began with Lord of the Rings, and then it went to Dragonlance and everything. There's Dungeons and Dragons. What it meant was I spent a lot of time with pen and paper, mm-hmm. and I'm a big comic book guy at the same time. What is the future of print? I mean, when you talk about consumers now, the last time that I printed something out was something that, very different from how I used to print 10 years ago.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe not even then, 20. What is the future of print?
Yeah, I think the future of print really takes on a different view depending on where you are in your life. If you look at print as the benefits that it might have to a child when you print content out, and there's a tactile feel and a piece of paper that you can draw on or write on, or it might be to a parent where they're printing photo memories, right? And we have an abundance of content, but I think relationship with print takes on how important is it? How important is the content to you? How important is that photo that you just left on your phone? Or is it important enough that you took the time to print it out? And I think that relationship about how valuable something is really easy to translate on, well, I kept it on my phone and it's just in the cloud somewhere or hopefully backed up, or it was so precious to me that I printed it out. And I think you can take that from a consumer point of view, but equally, we're all consumers, whether it's at work or at home. Even from a business point of view, there are countless times where I myself have access to all the technology. You have many devices that you can choose from, but there are those moments where it might even be for a business point of view. If you're running through a presentation or you're preparing for a presentation, there's a good chance you're printing that presentation out, right, to have with you. And I think that print relevance comes across in those areas where, am I confident enough that I've got the presentation in front of me? The battery never runs out on a piece of paper. If it's printed in front of you, you've got it. Yeah. Your note that you wrote down there is not automatically going to disappear somehow, right? So there's a confidence, and I think that's where the relationship with print is changing over time, depending on where you're at in your life. Are you using print for business? Are you using print for family? Are you using it for study? There is still very much a relevance there. It's just how people equate that to my relationship with the printer is memories for family, or my relationship with printer is work. I have to print out a presentation, or it's study. I'm learning, and I think that has kind of accelerated. When we came through the pandemic, one trend I really noticed was, there are only so many screens in people's houses. So when you wanted the kids to draw, or you wanted to, hey, I can't understand this presentation because I've only got one monitor or two monitors, people started to print things out, right? Because then you have all of these pages that you can see all at once. So I think what we find from a HP perspective is making sure we're in tune with that customer on how is their thought process around print changing over time, and how do we make sure we have a product that's relevant for them to use.
Yeah, I think you did touch on something over there that basically what I was trying to put into words is really much so about, now I've got a bunch of photos. My wife has got about 10,000 photos in her phone. I really have no idea where she gets them or has time to look through them. But as you said, to choose to print something out, that makes you think, right? I think that was very, very, you kind of hit the nail on the head over there. And also with, if I want to put something on a wall, I have that much of real estate and it needs to be printed, and so I'm going to put the best stuff that's up there. So there is this, I think I mentioned a bit before, I feel like there's some romanticism about print, the feeling about holding a good book in your hand versus, or even reading a comic. But then again, where does it still fit? So yeah, we've done the schoolwork, we've done all of that. Where's technology going to go? Where is the future of, well, the present?
Yeah. Look, I think there's plenty of opportunities of where it can go. I think the challenge for us is to make sure that there's no barrier between people wanting to print and the ease of printing. We've all had, I'm sure, throughout our lifetime where the printer dropped off the Wi-Fi network, or it didn't have its drivers loaded on your laptop, or wasn't configured correctly, and now you kind of enter a world where you're talking about. Taking photos it's not a second thought. Hey, you want to take 10 or 20 or 30 photos? It's fine. There's no cost attributed to that. And so then you have to think about, well, how do you get them off that device very easily? And when you're talking about print in the home, how easy is that printer to connect? And we were discussing before about go back where if people haven't had a printer for 10 plus years, as you kind of explained, you're setting up a printer now. We make sure that process is super simple and just seamless. And part of that intuitive design is you set it up from your phone. You're not plugging in cables here, left, right, and centre. You're not trying to configure your wireless network about what IP address the printer has got and how you print to that. All very seamless, so that you can get those memories easily off. I think, where does that go? If you look at lots of talk in technology at the moment about AI, and when we think about AI for print, we think about, well, how do we improve people's creativity? Because it is those memories, it is that seamless print that people want. When they finally do press print, they want it to be perfect. And we're kind of using AI around, we know what the content should look like or what people expect it to look like. So when we talk about AI in print, we talk about, well, how awesome would it be that before you print that photo, you could ask AI can you tweak the colours in this? Could you make it look differently? Could you add a heading to it? Could you sensationalise it and your son playing sport or something, put them up as though they're the MVP of the game? How could you create content without necessarily being a content creator? You don't want to have to go and do 12 months worth of work on how do I do layers and how do I become a Photoshop person. But being able to talk to an AI engine and create that content is something we're looking at on. There's an easy way to print, an easy way for people to think about that. And equally, when you come into the business world, hey, we know that there are plenty of folks that have issues printing spreadsheets out or printing out their presentation because it doesn't format the way they would like it to. It formats exactly the way the printer was told to do it, but that doesn't mean it's the way the person wants it to be done. And I think this is where AI, when we marry it with our wealth of knowledge about being the biggest print provider in the world, that means that we understand what our customers actually wanted. We can look at those AI models and make sure that the perfect content comes out every time. And that is, I think, what we're yet to see in the print world about just how much easier can we make this so that people can print confidently and get the output that they exactly wanted when they press the print button.
Now, for anyone who's had the computer from, I don't know, the Pentium MMX generation, I think drivers are the number one bane of our existence, right? You always needed to have the right driver for everything, and then you're stuck with so many disks filled with drivers. It's great that we don't have that anymore. But now that you've mentioned AI, that... above my head, is there... So, of course, AI, there are many different applications of AI, many ways of use of AI. You've got generative, but right now, is AI, or how is AI being used? Is it with the auto formatting, the auto layout? Is it something that's already in play? Or is it something that we can expect to see near future, far future?
I think certainly expect to see. I would probably say near future, not far future. You know, we're not talking about flying cars or anything of that nature. You know, this is stuff that we're really working on, and you know, I think it's the beginning of, you know, how do you bring the concept of AI into a purpose? You know, because there's, as I'm sure you have, there's plenty of noise around AI, and then it's when does it really start impacting people's lives? When does it make it easier? And to that point, you almost have to get to the scenario of AI is there, but not overtly there. It's transparent. It's in the background. It just helps rather than hindering in terms of adding another step to the process. And I think that's where you'll start to see that interaction more and more, where you don't, when we talk about making it easy to print or make it easier to create content, that you get to it's in the background. It happened, it worked, and it created the photo that you really wanted, but you didn't have to overthink it as the user, right? That you asked the AI, hey, I want you to put MVP logo behind this photo, and it did it. Right. That you don't have to think about it. Where do you take that beyond that? You know, some of this is around, when we come into the business world, how can we proactively figure out when your office printer is in need of a service, or is, unfortunately, it's going to have a breakdown? How do we use AI in that engine to figure out that we should send a service technician out to your office before the printer's broken down and before it needs a service, so that we know more about that printer than anyone in the office should, right? And you can use AI to start detecting those kind of things. So, we use our overwhelming wealth of knowledge in terms of having printers in market for this long to be able to then create a predictive algorithm, right? Where you take AI, feed it a really good data source, train it in a model that means we can then create a customer benefit. Yeah. And that is, no one wants their printer to be down at work, right? So how do we make sure that we reduce that downtime with that proactive level of service?
And then when you say that, so probably one of the other things that limits printing, or it's always at the back of our mind, are the consumables. So paper is one. The other is the actual ink itself. Yeah. So I know you have this subscription model. I keep forgetting what it is.
Instant ink.
Yep. Instant ink. That's the one. So I do have a HP printer at home, and I have seen it work in a way, as in I had no idea that we were running out of ink, and next thing I knew, someone turned up at the doorstep with a bunch of ink cartridges. How does that actually work? Instant ink.
Yeah, look, I think this comes from, one, our ability to understand people's printing habits, and to also offer cloud-connected printing, so that we know when you're running low on ink and what your page plan might be. And really, this service takes out that the reluctance, right? And certainly if I speak as a parent, no one likes arriving home with their child going, the printer needs ink. It is that, oh no, that moment, right? And so when we launched Instant Ink service, which we have in multiple countries across the world, we've got over 13 million people on that service now. And when we talk about Asia, it's in Singapore, we have it in New Zealand, we have it in Australia as well. The feedback on that service is that it takes what is a reluctant purchase out. It also takes what is an inconvenient purchase out. Typically inconvenient, right? When do people think about they need ink in their printer? When the printers run out of ink. And it's the most inconvenient time, right?
And most of the time is when you need it the most.
Correct, yes. Yeah. And it's then when you're telling your family, we can't print it out tonight, and you have to look at your child's devastated face that, who was the parent that let the printer run out of ink, right? And so, I think when you talk about that service, it's cheaper. It's up to 50% cheaper to be on Instant Ink than what it would be to go and buy a traditional tank. It's far more convenient because you don't have to even think about it, right? We monitor all of that for you. There is a variety of page plans that people can go on. So it's a monthly subscription. You can opt out anytime you like. You can change your plan anytime you like. It is probably the most convenient way to have a home printer. And I think that's why people really like that service. But if I'm really true on our customer feedback and true on my own feedback, a lot of the services to do with, I don't have to go and buy ink again. I don't have to make that special trip to the shops, right? And I also don't have to think when I see my kids printing out all of these things to post on their wall or do whatever, I don't have to think, oh, I must remember to go and get ink. I know it's looked after for me.
Great. Well, I know you don't really have, we don't really have that much time, and thank you for joining us today. But maybe before we part, something for, consumers, people like me, what can we expect from HP, in the print category? Anything new you think that's upcoming that's going to make us go, hey, well, that's interesting?
I'd like to see once we announce the stuff that we're doing in AI, I think that will be a wow moment for people because it will be unexpected in print. I think AI gets talked about a lot in the PC area and in the cloud area and on phones. It doesn't get really talked about at all on print. And I think that is, when you can delight customers with something they didn't really expect, they're the moments that kind of gets me excited about this business. I actually think you'll continue to see HP evolve printing in terms of that convenience, that ease. How do we make sure that the customer interaction with our product is super seamless, simple, and breaks down that barrier of people going, do I want to print that or not? Yeah, I may as well print it. It's a cost advantage, it's an ease and convenience, and I think that's what people can look forward to from HP.
Great. I'm so looking forward to have the conversation with you once we see this live. And I still think there's a great place for print. I believe it's still something that's very close to us. It's tactile. It makes you choose.
Correct. Yeah. I think people always choose to print their best memories, to print the things that are important in their life, still come out on printed page.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul, for joining us for this episode of Just Saying with.
Pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.